I pledge allegiance.
I have the United States of America, and to the indivisible, with justice.
We all call for nominations for chairman for 2023.
I nominate a Magrum.
I'll second it.
Any more nominations for chairman for 2023? Any more nominations for chairman for 2023? If not, there's been a motion to nominate Commissioner Magrum, seconded by Commissioner Cole. We'll do, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
So I'm officially the chairman again. All right. Well, thank you guys for your trust in me. Do the best I can to hold the chair respectfully. Okay. So now that's done, we will take note of nominations for vice chairman. Are there any nominations for vice chairman for 2023?
Gary Wolf.
Commissioner Materi nominates Commissioner Holm. I don't believe we need seconds for the nominations, do we, Marlis? I think you can just make nominations.
We had one though, so we just.
Right, but I mean, you don't need a second, I believe, for a nomination, so we have, Commissioner Holm is nominated for vice chairman. Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Not hearing any?
I'll nominate Donnie.
Commissioner Culver nominates Commissioner Everly for vice chairman. So we have two nominations. Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? And nominations are closed.
Want to do a paper ballot?
Brett, would you, both of you, or either one of you up for it, or both of you? Should we go for both?
Do you want to do a paper ballot or how do you want to?
They just says want to do a verbal vote, so.
A verbal vote?
Yep, so, I guess all those in favor of Commissioner Holm being vice chairman, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of Commissioner Everly being vice chairman, say aye. I guess I don't have to vote, so okay, Commissioner Holm is vice chairman, congratulations. Gary? Okay, we have the reading and approval of the minutes. Are there any additions, corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Holm makes a motion to approve the minutes as typed. Is there a second to that motion? Second to the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Culver. Is there any more discussion on the minutes of the last meeting? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. We have approval of the agenda. Is there anything to add? Questions, concerns?
The only thing I would add is people want to know about going into the yards for snow removal.
Going in the yards for snow removal? We could probably bring that up on Skylar's here with the road department and
I got another issue people are addressing and asking me about the courthouse being open, like the auditor's office, the register of deeds, treasurer's office at noon hour. If they could alternate the employees that they're open during the noon hour, is there a noon hour break? Or is it an hour, a half hour break? An hour? See, there's a lot of people that come at when they're working and they've got an hour off and they take a fast lunch break, they come up to do their business, and it's locked, or the doors are open, but nobody's in the office area.
We've talked about this before, and we
Right.
tried to get something changed, and it never,
I'd like that to be on the agenda, and that there's a motion made by the board, that there's an alternating amongst the employees within these offices, that they can be open during the noon hour to conduct business.
Well, the only problem is they can't fit, somebody can't fit in for you or somebody else, or like the motor vehicle, how do they do there?
well, you know, like, Ardell is going part-time, and so
So if there's only one person there, what do you
it
do?
would be
There is
hard.
only one person. See, they asked to at least post it on the courthouse doors, so that they know what the hours are.
I think that's the most important one, the motor vehicle, I think would probably be.
Are they gonna hire somebody in it?
Who?
At the motor vehicle?
We've got, I mean, we're full, you know, I just need a, part-time and full-time, and that's it,
Okay.
you know.
What was it, one full-time and then one part-time, so there's what, 2 days a week where there's 2 people in there? And then the rest of the time there's only one, so.
I mean, that's what people bring up. They said, we're not really upset, but it'd be really handy for us.
Well, we can
They feel it should be an open building, being it's a public building,
Right.
open to serve the people. I don't,
Well, no, we'll add it on the agenda here, we'll put it, probably after the roads discussion or something like that, we can discuss it, see if we wanna come up
And you
with.
could put on the Dennis Homo Road from there too, if you want.
Well, that, yeah, so the drivers, and then we wanted to, someone wanted to discuss that, the Hummel development south of Rice Lake there, so we can bring that up with Skylar and kinda go over that, I know there is an agreement in place with some of that plat stuff, so. Okay, so we have the addition of some road/snow removal discussion, which we will do sometime in the 11 to noon hour with Skylar, and then courthouse hours discussion we'll probably discuss after that, at the end, after all the other business is done, so. With those additions to the agenda, are there any more additions to the agenda? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Motion by Commissioner Everly to approve the agenda as amended, is there a second?
I would second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion on the amended agenda? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. So, on the old and unfinished business, I know we had discussed setbacks just lightly at the last meeting and wanted to just do some conversational stuff, so talking to Josh, the one thing that I have had brought up to me on several occasions by people as far as setbacks go is they believe it should be somewhere in the neighborhood of a mile. That's not a majority or consensus, it's just from some people that have approached me about it. So, for the sake of discussion, since we've never really been given a proper map, in my opinion, they gave us the shape file for the right-of-way and everything, so I told Josh, I asked him if he could do something to show us about who would be affected within a mile of the pipeline, because that's kind of where the conversation's been with me. So Josh has this map, and then he also, I believe, gave you guys a list. And on that list would be basically any, I believe it's resident, right Josh? That's kind of where the map is, or not the map, but the list.
The list contains landowners who own a yard. I haven't spent the time to see if they physically live there yet.
Sure.
You know, if we approve something like this, you know, we'll dig in deeper to see if someone actually lives in this yard or whatever. But I just did a map, a 1 mile buffer, and then if there was a yard within that mile, I put their names of who owns it there, and it's highlighted in yellow here, the property lines. So if we go into it further, obviously we'll make sure, you know, find out who actually lives there in these yards, so.
Well, I mean, just looking at the list from what I can see, it looks like a fair majority of them are probably residents there. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a few of them in here that are more likely just owners of it, but there are quite a few of these this is where these people live, so. So, with that being discussed, I also, looking through the ordinance book, so if you look on page 16, and that's what this handout is here, so, talked to State's Attorney Joe Hansen, and I had just asked him what would probably be the proper procedure if we were going to do anything, and since we do have a setback for underground pipelines, the proper procedure would be to amend the current setback rather than to like create an entire new ordinance. And then while amending it, we can amend it basically as we see fit, as long as we have, just to be right, and this was where it's a little bit muddy, but essentially the process we've always done is we've done a first reading, and then you schedule a public hearing, and then you have the chance for the public to come in, and then after that, you make some, just like we did with the solar issues or any of those other things, so. So this ordinance that he had printed off, this is on page 16, and he has in here 2,640 feet from an inhabited residence. It's actually 200 feet from any building or body of water. That's the current ordinance. This is, when him and I were talking, I said, just put a number in there to at least start with, just to see what it would look like, so that's where.
That's not very far, is it?
Well, the current ordinance is 200 feet. No, that is, in my mind, it has to be amended. I don't know what distance is proper.
I mean,
And
even
that's-
for oil pipeline, it would be pretty close.
Well, basically anything 200 feet is just really short. And it says from a building where, you have farms out there where there's an old barn. It doesn't need to be a mile away from the old barn maybe, but the inhabited residence part is not in there either. And that's where, if anything, this is just kind of, in my mind, what I thought it should look like. This can be amended anyway, and on page 16, it's in the book there, so you're more than welcome to read to it, but, just for the sake of how everything, with everything's going, I'll read it off. So, as a part of subsection B of part 2 of part B of part I, because it goes down into several things, located on page 16, shall be amended and revised to read as follows. A map of a pipeline route which clearly indicates that the pipeline right-of-way does not pass within 2,640 feet of an inhabited residence, within 200 feet of any other building or surface body of water, and not within 100 feet of a highway right-of-way or section line, unless perpendicular to said right-of-way or section line. And also another addition to it, which I think is necessary, is a variance for the setback from an inhabited residence of 2,640 feet may be allowed if the application for the permit includes a signed and notarized waiver of setback from inhabited residence, signed by a resident of each such residence located within the proposed pipeline right-of-way. Pipelines constructed for the transmission of water are not subject to the setback from inhabited residence. I felt like excluding water was important because that kind of inhibits development. I mean, water in our mind is not something everybody's overly worried about, but mainly this would cover oil, gas, and any other similar pipeline. So, I mean, if we want to go through this or do anything, if you guys, basically what I'm told is if we would want to have a public hearing, it's usually 2 to 3 weeks after the approved first reading. So,
Okay, well, if we did have a public hearing, we could just do it at a regular meeting next month, couldn't we?
well, I think that would be hard because the big thing about it is people like it in the evening so they can attend. I know the regular meetings is always tough because people got work and other things too, so, the main thing about it today is if we did go through and approve something today, vote on it and pass it, that would be a first reading, and it really doesn't concrete anything, it just begins the process of going to the public hearing, which is where we would make the final decision. So if you guys want to act on something today, we can do that. If you don't feel comfortable with it, we could table it and move it on to something else, move it on to another meeting or something too. I guess my opinion of it is I feel like since the first reading doesn't really concrete or solidify anything, I feel like we should probably act on something today to continue the process, because if we table it, it goes on, and I guess that's my opinion. That being said, does anybody else want to add anything?
Say, so your feedback from people.
Right, that's the part now you know what we're looking up against. Does anybody want to add anything to it?
I think we're hearing out there 2 miles. We need to consider that this is a high pressurized pipeline. That's 24 inches. And I know I presented some information to you guys this summer about a rupture in Samaria, Mississippi. And I think theirs was a 12-foot rupture if I remember right. And it traveled like 4.5 miles. It's all dependent, of course, on the weather, what's going on, but it is a poisonous gas. So, we really believe that needs to be taken into consideration as far as setback. to residences. And like you said, we're not sure exactly on the route, where it exactly is, what residences are going to be affected, but it's good to know that there is, you've started that process to know how many families are gonna be affected by it. So, and we're also wondering whether there's, is this something that an emergency procedure would take care of, or as far as meetings, I know we've contacted the Hazelton Fire Department, first responders, and they have no idea that this pipeline's coming through.
They have no idea.
No idea. So to me, that seems a little, if our emergency management people that are gonna have to come in and deal with a rupture don't even know about the pipeline, the process needs to be started, and thank you today for starting that process so we can move forward. I'm not exactly sure how it goes, but I think starting is a good thing, for sure.
Well, I think from what I've seen, I think part of the issue, especially in South Dakota and a couple counties, is they're frustrated that Summit's made the promise that after the permits and all of this stuff, that's when they're gonna get together and start educating these people on the pipeline, which I feel like if people maybe knew how difficult it could be to provide emergency services, they'd probably have a different opinion of whether this pipeline should even exist. I feel like that's probably an unfair advantage to where it's like, oh, now that this is happening, you're gonna tell us how dangerous it is, or, and if it's unfair to say it's that dangerous, then Summit really should be doing that information ahead of time, educate people that, hey, it's not as dangerous as so-and-so is saying. Like, it kind of feels unfair, like they're like, oh, once we get our permits, we'll educate everybody, and it's like, maybe everybody's gonna be disappointed after it's all said and done. So I mean, I guess getting back to this amendment, talking to Joe, we both felt 200 feet was ridiculous. I mean, it would just plain out. And that's why at least I thought, at a minimum, 2640 is a half a mile. I felt like that was at least a good jump off point to go. I mean, we at least gotta start the conversation somewhere around there. If you go less or more, half a mile's gotta somehow be like a conversation point. So that's the reason for putting it in there. That doesn't mean that that's what it should be. It could be far more, it could be far less. That's what the public hearing and the discussion and everything's gonna be about. But I feel like to let those folks that are concerned about the setbacks know that we're at least serious about doing a significant increase, that was a good place to start. And that's why this whole document, everything about it can be amended after approval of a first reading. But I feel like this is the point to start with. If you guys don't agree, that's fine, but I felt like we at least need to initiate the process. The PSC, from what I'm told, looks for guidance from the counties. Like when everybody goes, well, they can't approve a permit if they don't know what our setbacks are, then they're gonna probably just disregard them, and they're gonna use their own better judgment on if that's too close to a farm or not. If we want it done a certain way in Emmons County, we have to show the PSC what we expect. So that's the reason for pushing it now, is we've talked about it a few times. I've at least brought this forward. It's amendable, especially during a public hearing, and I think we need to let people voice their opinion on it, and then from there, we make a decision that hopefully is at least somewhat agreeable with everybody. That's the best way to do the process. So
What are the setbacks in some of the other states,
there's a variety of different things. It really is county by county, actually, because some counties, like I said, McPherson County, like we talked about before, that Eureka area just south of us, they're what they call a mile county. Wind towers, pipelines, feedlots, and they've actually passed moratoriums on all these projects because they're going through their ordinances again. I don't feel like we have to reinvent the wheel because we did have something in here. And so I feel like amending things as we go is probably the proper way of doing it rather than just rewriting the entire book. Especially for the sake of time, this is going to be the fastest way to at least ensure that we're trying to manage this project to the best of our abilities. So
What's Burley at?
I don't think Burley, from my knowledge in that last meeting, at least that one you attended, they're entertaining changing it. So whatever they have, I'm not sure. But it seemed like there was an appetite from the people there to at least refresh on it. I don't know if they'll change it or what they have, but it seemed like that's a discussion that's gonna be had probably pretty soon. And so I feel like we should be in the same boat, at least we should be discussing it. Not that we just say, well, we have a process and it's here. I mean, if people are concerned, and at the end of the hearing, and everybody venturing through, you're gonna have a pretty good idea what you think people want, how you feel about it, from there we make a decision, so. I guess another thing to consider, one thing that did enter my mind is possibly even creating setbacks for pipelines based on the size of the pipe. My reason for that is if you have a 4-inch one versus a 20-inch one, you could, a 4-inch pipeline, maybe you could get away with under a half mile, but once you start going into the 20s and 30s of inches, you gotta really be concerned about the damage that can do, especially with this pipeline. Emmons County is like one of the last counties before it gets put in. We are under full pressure, full volume. Whatever that pipeline is gonna handle, it's gonna come through Emmons County. So we are probably gonna be, us and Burley are gonna be some of the worst damaged areas if there is trouble. So I really do think we need to definitely look into the setbacks, because it could be 50 years till there's trouble, and we might all be dead and gone, but that doesn't mean that.
It's a different animal that way.
Well, the decision needs to be thoroughly thought of, that's for dang sure. So anyway,
And if I could interject, one thing that you might want to look at is the rate of travel for that exposure. Like she had said, 4 miles. If, 1 mile is gonna affect somebody within 10 minutes versus an hour to get out of their home, that could maybe play a different parameter of how you want to make that decision.
Is this gas, can you smell this gas?
It's odorless.
Totally odorless, okay, I didn't
You
know.
hear it, they say, and it's really, I would encourage the commissioners to watch the 1 hour. I think Marlis, I had sent her the 1 hour link, and it's all the first responders and what they experienced. So it's very eye-opening. It's an hour long, but it's worth your time, and they heard it. It was the sound, because it's under such high pressure.
Yeah.
It sounds like a jet engine. People didn't know what it was. A lot of people didn't know that there was a pipeline there because they weren't landowners that had given, authority to do that, so they didn't even know what they were dealing with. So it's a really good experience of a community that weren't prepared. They didn't know, like their first responders too, what does that mean for our first responders as far as equipment, training, preparation? I mean, could be a huge, huge thing. And like Aaron, like you had said, there's no talk about it. You ask someone about it, and they won't talk safety. They won't give you any information on safety.
Oh, the other thing I didn't like is they only got a bury 4 feet deep, what's that?
That's insane.
well, and just to even add to that, that's a part of this. If we want an underground pipeline to be deeper, these are the things, this is the discussion, guys.
Right.
How we want this pipeline built is gonna be a part of this ordinance. It can be amended. It might be a little too short. Maybe that's where we need to go into it. And I guess for those that are gonna be watching this video after this meeting's over, if you're watching and you're listening and you're interested, this ordinance is gonna be driven by the public hearing. You want something changed, you want it to be better, it needs to happen at that hearing. It can't happen a week afterwards and not be happy of how it turned out. Come to that hearing. If we have to have it for 5 hours, we have it for 5 hours. And if you have an opinion on it, bring it out. If you have information, the commissioners aren't gonna know everything. We don't have a high-end zoning department with, people that research this stuff 24 hours a day. If you have information, you have people that have information,
Submit.
bring it to the hearing. If you can't make it to the hearing, email it, submit it in writing. This is a huge project with major repercussions, positive and negative to the county, and it needs to be heard, because afterwards, there's no going back. If you approve a permit or you deny one, it's over probably. So the thought process that it could have been changed or different, that public hearing and this ordinance is gonna be driven by that process, so.
So how do we get our first responders knowing about this? How do we get the fire departments involved so they know this is what's being proposed, this is what could happen? Who's that person that gives out the factual information on, that's what I was wondering, is there an emergency coordinator for Emmons County?
Well, we have an emergency manager, Mary Sanger, we contract through Burley County, but she's very active in Emmons County. I mean, that's someone that, has a lot of contact information with those folks, and she also works with Burley County, so she's going through a similar situation in Burley County too, so, that's someone, we can definitely reach out to and see if she can help coordinate just contact or information or anything, or,
Can it be put in the paper?
Well, what
To
I'm.
give the people an open, honest feeling what's going on?
Right, well, I think this is the part of the process we're getting, obviously, there's a lot of people watching these meetings on YouTube, I think we all know that. The newspaper's not here today, but they usually are, but I think the reason for wanting to be out in front with this is that we can't schedule a public meeting for at least 2 weeks, I believe, 'cause it's gotta be published for 2 weeks. I guess I had a vision roughly of thinking somewhere around that last week of January, because that'd be about 3 weeks from now, give or take. And that would give plenty of people, plenty of time to know about the meeting. I don't want anybody to go, "Oh, I didn't know about it," or "it happened too fast." This needs to be a total public input. My idea, I guess, I don't know the sports schedule, because that's part of the trouble, but I guess probably a Wednesday night might be the best night, because it's usually not a sports night.
Calendar. This is my one.
Oh, that's an old calendar, so that doesn't
This
count.
gas flows and goes to the lowest point, correct?
I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert about it.
Right, because I look at
probably-
Bismarck, and it's on the north side of Bismarck, and you look at the way of Bismarck. I mean, how many people would be
Right,
eliminated
right.
by one mechanical error?
Not just that, you know, they're pumping it underground, who knows where it's gonna come out, it could come out.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Look at Linton where we sit. This is low elevation compared to Hazelton.
Well,
How far can it flow?
If I
before you stop it?
remember right, talking to Josh, we kind of looked into it a little bit too. I believe even like Hazelton City and the Hazelton School is roughly within like a 2.5 mile window of this pipeline too. So
About a mile and a half to Hazelton.
to the city limits, and then it's about another, I mean, you're around 2 miles from the school. I mean,
Jeez.
well, I mean, that's just where this, to spread, just to reiterate, it needs to be publicly driven on this too. I mean, I know we gotta do our research and we have a job to do too. The public's gotta drive this. If we want something strict, if we want something real, it's gotta have support of people, so.
You don't stop this like oil pipeline that breaks
Right.
and flows slowly even though it's pressurized.
No, you don't,
This is gas, and how do you stop gas?
you don't see it.
Yeah, and it takes the oxygen out
Out
of
of you.
here. So your engines aren't gonna run, that's what these first responders
Yeah.
said, is their vehicles weren't running. They couldn't go to help somebody. They were dependent on their little, I think their Rangers or whatever, they had better luck getting around. You know, so there's a whole lot of things that need to be considered, and you just can't get any information from Summit, they just will not talk about it.
Summit's looking at the end dollar of this
They
project.
are,
That's
they're
all
not,
it's
it's
about.
not about our
Care about.
safety.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be here, we deserve to know what we have to do in the event of an emergency, and what's the cost to that? What's the cost to preparedness
Yeah.
with vehicles, with, you know, like the full containment suits that they have to wear to go out and do a rescue? But, you know, there's just, there's been there's no information, we have to get it all kind of ourselves, but
They're smooth on condolences.
Well, I would say my recommendation here is that we probably pass this as a first reading. It's completely amendable after the public hearing. I don't think we're doing any damage or anything, I think we're just initiating the process. My recommendation is we pass this as a first reading, and we set a,
Just what they got there.
just right here. And this is totally amendable and changeable how we want to see fit, so.
Just to get the ball.
Right, we have to start with something.
Yeah.
And,
Instead of pushing it off month to month.
right, I don't think that's the best way to do it. We have people that are concerned, they want to have their voice be heard, and I think a public hearing is the best time to do it. My other suggestion then, January 25th is the last Wednesday of January. That's, I mean, basically it's 4 weeks away from tomorrow. Wednesday night, in my mind, unless somebody wants to correct me, probably the best night, 'cause it's usually not a sports night. You start going into Tuesdays and Thursdays, you get people with activities. So my opinion would be that we probably would be to pass this first reading and then set a public hearing date for January 25th at 6 p.m. That's my suggestion. You guys are more than welcome to weigh in any other way you see fit. January 25th would be a Wednesday, and it gives people plenty of time. That gives us a couple newspaper cycles. It gives,
Is 6 PM too early for people?
I'm just, like I said, I'm just.
I'm just- yeah, I'm just-
Right, I feel like when we've had public hearings in the
Most people
past,
are done by 5:30.
generally 5:30 is when we'd started. That's maybe hugging it a little too close. If you have people from Hazelton, Strasburg, anywhere around the county, I mean, you know, I'd say 6 p.m. is, because if you do have a long one, we don't want to be going into midnight either, so
What I think.
I'd say trying to keep it, 6 o'clock's a good sweet spot. If you have a 2-3 hour meeting, you're still out here by 8, 9 o'clock. I feel like,
At the auditorium basement.
Well, we probably try and have it in here unless, and we would hold the auditorium as an overflow, I suppose, in case it's that
I'd
big.
rather have it in here.
Well, in here we have the recording information, the microphones. I feel like I'd probably rather pack this place and go down to the auditorium, but that's my
The
opinion.
sound is better, you can hear.
Everything I think is better in here, so, the lighting, everything, so.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion, you guys are more than willing to weigh in, for the sake of time, I'd say weigh in now, I guess, and let's keep moving on it, but.
I think we're good, but it just,
Well, I guess if that's the case, then I'd entertain a motion to approve this amended ordinance, the first reading of this amended ordinance.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion to approve this first reading of the amended ordinance, pipeline setbacks. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion on the first reading of the amended ordinance for pipeline setbacks? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First reading is read and approved.
I have a question
Uh-huh.
or an option. Today is farm residence exemption applications going out to all the farmers.
Uh-huh.
Would that be a great communication tool if we can print out little public notices and slip them in that mailer?
I think
The
that,
more the better.
yep, I think that's an excellent idea.
So everybody has notice on this deal.
Right.
We'll let Leanne know not to see.
Okay, well then, before you leave then, so we have a consensus, the official public hearing will be January 25th at 6 p.m. here in the Emmons County courtroom. Unless the group is too big, we will overflow downstairs.
Yep.
6 o'clock?
6 p.m.
6 o'clock, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. Okay. That being done, we can move on to the agenda. We are a little bit behind, so Craig,
Good morning, everybody. How's
you're up
everyone
next.
doing today?
Yes, good.
So, the reason why I'm meeting with you guys today is I've got some prices here for looking into getting a power bring attachment for either the ATV or even looking at getting some, with running lawn tractor for, kind of helping out with some snow removal for around here. Because that's the wonderful nice part about that heavy hard snow when it comes in, when it blows in, it's kind of tough to get that sidewalk nice and clean. So I'm trying to get down to clean sidewalks so we don't have any icing, trying to prevent from having to put too much salt down. So the two options I got is I got a hold of Sour Infinite down here, so that one is, kind of went through and set it up for trying to do multiple use on it, and with everything coming out, the price on that one is at $23,400. Now, with the sheriff's office, we've got an ATV that's down, that does have a blade on it, but I'm looking at trying to get, more use out of the ATV, so you can only get down so far with that blade, and the biggest issue, like I say, that I have is trying to keep that sidewalk nice and clean, so this way we don't have anybody slipping or falling or getting hurt or anything like that. So last thing, like I said, I would never wanna see happen is, us getting sued over somebody getting injured. So pretty much what I'm looking at is, I'm leaning kind of more towards this iron Baltic bristle attachment for the ATV, just to kind of get the sidewalk a bit more cleaned up.
I think you did actually have a couple incidences of some employees slipping and falling kind
Yes,
of
yes,
at the beginning of the
yes,
winter.
Yes,
With the
yes,
ice
I
and
know there has been a couple incidents that have been filed, so this is kind of part of the reason why I want to get this going, get the ball rolling on something like this, or to help prevent any more incidents like that happening.
And you do have some money in your budget for, like, let's just say this road redoing, there is some money
Yes.
available through the.
Yes,
So as far as budgeting, that's not really an issue, it's just a matter of.
it's more so just kind of throw it by you guys, seeing which, if there's something, if you'd like to go with, maybe getting a more multi-use vehicle, or that's, something that maybe down the road we could even look at, in the future, of going down. I just, myself personally, I feel more comfortable with, going with this iron Baltic setup, because that's just, because we already have the piece of equipment available here that for use, and it's just a quick hookup, because like I say, with the ATV that the sheriff's office has got, I've been using that for pushing snow around here, and this hooks up to the same attachment part on the ATV, so it's a quick swap back and forth between pieces of equipment on that ATV.
Is that PTO grade?
What's the little man?
It's got a, like a little, what is it, a 6.5 horse
Oh, I see.
gas motor that's on there that you start up and that gets the bristle spinning.
So it's basically just a self-contained unit that you attach to the four-wheeler.
Correct.
How wide is that?
That one is, what was it? again?
1,270 millimeters.
I think it's like
What's your
about,
metric, what's your metric conversion to that?
if I remember correctly, it's about 50 inches or so. 48 to 50 inches.
Is that the only brand that's available?
There is another one out of, Canada called, I do not remember off the top of my head, I could shoot somebody an email on it, but they're about $1,000 more. And I know, because I looked into, this was last month about it, they're so far behind on that piece of equipment, it wouldn't be till April before we can even get one of those from that company.
Well, I guess in my opinion, a rotating broom has always been probably the best snow removal device for like sidewalks and stuff, I mean. So as far, I mean, I think you're on the right track with doing that versus, like you said, a blade or something like that, because.
Well, the nice part about it is too, is you can hit it with a blade and you can come back with those bristles and get everything nice and cleaned up. And then plus too, I also have a walk behind snow blower, so, you know, it does get to the point of something where the blade can't handle it on the ATV, I just run out with the snow blower, then I come back through with the bristle attachment and clean up everything a lot nicer.
Do you use that blade now?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Because you just pretty much just out front here, right, pretty much, is that?
Yeah, pretty much, well, that's kind of why it's this, you know, with the pricing for, you know, through Siler for the price of that piece of equipment, like I say, it's for that cost, when we've already got, you know, the blade for the ATV hooked up and everything, it's, you know, trying to find more uses for it, that's why, you know, I've got like the 60-inch mower deck on it with a rotary broom, like the only thing I don't really have with this quote on it, which I wouldn't expect being more anywhere than $5,000, and this is just me kind of taking a wild guess in the dark on it, would just be like throwing a banking system on there as well, just to try to get more use out of it, but it's, you know, for what our size of the property is, for what we do mow around here, it's not much, that's why, you know, the walk behind mower I've got works just fine for around here. So that's kind of why I'm more so leaning towards the bristle broom attachment for the ATV on that one, just because we've already got the equipment here, and that's a much easier cost to take in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem with the broom attachment for the four-wheeler, I feel like it's probably a good move, we gotta keep the sidewalks clean, we don't want anybody slipping around here, that's for sure, so. I guess I don't.
How much snow can you move with that?
It's about 6 inches, so I know even like too, is where before where I've used one of these too, is if worse comes to worse, and you really don't wanna switch the attachment out, it does go off the winch system that's on there, so you can actually raise and lower the bristle attachment itself, so you can actually, you know, if you need to make a pass through, say like a 10-inch cut or something like that, you can always make a quick cut through it, and then drop it back down and get your more clean on it, but that's completely up to the individual and kind of how hard packed the snow is too. If you do have a hard pack on it, it's kind of hard to get cut through that a little bit.
Yeah.
Does that thing angle at all?
Yes, it does. It goes up to, I think, what is it, about 20 degrees or so, either direction, left or right from the ATV.
You have money in your budget, you said, right? And we talked about that before, so it's basically just looking for permission, so I don't know what you guys think.
I'll make a motion to buy it.
Yeah, if you think it's
You
gonna
think you
work,
need it, you need it,
yeah,
Oh, I don't think
just
you
so
need
you
a
know
motion
you've
unless.
got a budget to work with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, that's what we talked about before, I mean, I know when Craig kinda had asked me about it, he said, well, so that tractor was 20-some grand, so I think that's a little excessive, well, he said when he found this broom, and that seems a lot more realistic, so. Unless somebody's got an issue with it, I think you can just go ahead and do it.
It's a bricks and strap that's on there.
Well, I'm looking at this mower bid you got here,
Yeah,
that's another proposal.
that's where just so we gotta compare and contrast for costing on, cause you know, it's for Silo, that's getting like a left and right tractor altogether, it's just with the ATV attachment here, we've already got the ATV.
He wants a broom, so he's asking for his tractor. That's he's smart, well, he's smart, so I don't have a problem with it, cause like I said, poor snow removal is usually a pretty good complaint, especially in a public building, so. I guess I have no problem with it, if nobody else does, I'd say go ahead with it, unless somebody has something to say.
long as it
Fine.
works.
Yep,
Alright.
need a motion for it or not?
I don't think so, because it's in his budget. I mean, we already approved the budget,
It's
so.
just one of the things where
He's
you guys
just-
want to go with the right tracking system, so this way you guys have, a visual on it.
You're in charge of the building, I mean, the outside, the sidewalks, everything, right?
Correct.
That diamond shape coming into this courthouse, that tile up right by the front doors, that has to be addressed next spring, where it's busted out.
Yes, well,
Somebody will stumble on it.
that's one thing, it's because when that first storm came through back here in November, those mud mats that I had sitting outside kind of got frozen to the ground. Well, trying to keep up with that storm, when we got, 6-10 inches of snow coming down, trying to shovel around the mud mats is not exactly the easiest. So when I pulled the mats back, that's when that stuff started breaking out, because then it was finally exposed to everything now. So that's something that I have in the process that we're gonna be working with for ARPA funding for trying to get that taken care of.
Shouldn't you throw a rubber mat over the top of that, just so somebody doesn't stumble into
I
it?
can, yeah, absolutely.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah,
Some little old, I mean, not great gender, some little old person's gonna fall on that.
yeah, it's like, actually, I've got the mud mats downstairs, I can just grab that and put it back out front again.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Craig.
Yep, you're welcome, thanks, everybody.
Yep. Teresa.
Good morning. I have a sheet. This isn't just like a PowerPoint, so I'm just giving an overview.
Josh.
Great, good morning. My name is Teresa Leach. I'm the Vision Zero Coordinator for the Southwest Region part of North Dakota. And I just want to give you an update about everything that we've accomplished since I started this position 2 years ago. So Vision Zero is North Dakota's state initiative to get down to zero traffic fatalities. And I'm going to go over ways that we have grown Vision Zero throughout North Dakota. We've been going to schools. I've been going to elementary schools in particular, talking about seatbelt safety. We have a book called Bucky, and then we also have a visual aid for those students. We have a wooden ramp with a wooden car and a ping pong ball in it. And when we send that car down that ramp, that ping pong ball flies out. And then we also put a Velcro strap over it that second time, so that ping pong ball stays in place. So kids get a really good visual aid of how a seatbelt works and why it's always important to wear your seatbelt if you're ever in a car crash. And that presentation is about 30 minutes long. Our next presentation is Impact Teen Drivers. This is a presentation based out of California, and we have brought this presentation to over 800 students in the southwest region of the state. We've reached well over almost 3,000 students throughout all of North Dakota with this presentation. This presentation is geared towards high schoolers, and it shares 2 stories of teens that have passed away in crashes. Has nothing to do with gory things or anything like that. Just shares stories of families and communities that have been impacted by the death of teens in car crashes. And it's really a behavior-based presentation. We really see a change of behavior after the teens have seen this presentation. We know this because we give a survey before and after the presentation. And teens are far more likely to make better decisions in the car as a driver and as a passenger. Okay, and then we have our tools that we have. I'm gonna start off with our drop goggles. We have this at state tournaments, things like that. Students can get a feel of what being drunk is like, and then they in turn, I speak with them about why it's important to never get behind the wheel after they've been drinking. And so it's a great way to just start early and talk about driving sober. Then we have our City Go-Kart. It stands for Simulated Impaired Driving Experience. This is a go-kart that we bring to schools. We usually have it in the gym during the winter time, or if it's nice out, we have it out in the parking lot. We need a 100 by 100 flat surface, and we set up this course. And students can drive this go-kart once they're on the obstacle course, and then I have a remote control that can control if the car listens to the student. So I'll press an impairment button, and then the cart doesn't turn the way the students turn. It doesn't brake right away when the students try to brake. And so that really helps us, after they go through the obstacle course, of course, they're gonna think it was fun and silly, but they ended up crashing into a cone or whatever. But then we speak with them, okay, what did you feel when you crashed into that? What did you feel when you did complete control of the vehicle? Usually they'll say scared. And then also have their passenger with them, and their passenger is often more scared than the driver. And when we talk with the passenger, we really emphasize why it's important to never get to a call with a drink driver who's driving, because stats show your passengers are more likely to die. Then we have the simulated impairment simulator, and this also is another drunk driving experience that students can encounter without actually going through the real life scenario. And it's pretty effective, and I've been able to have some good conversations with students about it. We have this also at our state tournaments, whether it's basketball, volleyball, wrestling. It's a really great conversation starter. Then we have our rollover simulator with the North Dakota Highway Patrol. This shows what a rollover crash looks like at 30 miles per hour. Have any of you seen this before, the rollover simulator? No? Okay. Usually they have dummies in there, they don't buckle them up, and so when this rollover simulator rolls over, people get a really good idea of why it's important to wear a seatbelt in a crash. Then we have our impaired go-kart, so people put on those drunk goggles and then they try to drive the go-kart around. So another sober driving experience, and why it's important to always drive sober. Then for our schools, we also have a newer program called Vision Zero Schools. We have Flasher already being a Vision Zero school. This year we're having Wing as well as a Vision Zero school. Vision Zero Schools is a peer-to-peer program for students. So basically, students telling students why it's important to drive safe, to always buckle up, to drive distraction-free. And the students themselves, they help create public service announcements. So we have the DOT come into the school, like with Wing this year, we brought DOT in. We had their 5 student leaders say, hey, we want everyone in our school to get home safely. Please buckle up, please drive distraction-free. And then next week, we're going to hold a school assembly. We're going to present them a banner saying, buckle up Wildcats, with the faces of all the students. And then the students are going to see that as they're leaving school. So it's a really great opportunity for students to really tell each other, hey, we care about you, we want you to drive safe, we want everyone to get home safely. And so that's, Vision Zero Schools is a wonderful opportunity for outreach. Then we have community engagement. We, all of the coordinators, myself and the 3 others, are CPS certified, so we help check car seats. And one of the events, we do many events, but one of the events that we've done that's been really successful is called Click It for Coffee. We did this at Balancing Goat in Mandan. We had law enforcement outside of the coffee shop along with myself, and we would give people coupons coming through who were wearing their seatbelts, and they got a coupon for their coffee and then a coupon for the next time that they came in. So this is a great way to positive reinforcement for seatbelt use. Then we have our partnerships. We partner with the High School Activities Association. They are a proud sponsor of us, and we're proud to sponsor them as well. And we work together to promote safe driving, and we have a message for every state tournament that we have saying, hey, please buckle up, please drive safe. And then we also have partnerships with the Larks, Dickinson Big Sticks, DSU, Dakota Speedway, University of Mary, the Bismarck Bucks. We had a partnership with North Dakota Country Fest last summer. So we have a lot of partnerships that we reach, and it's a lot of the same messaging as Vision Zero Schools. It's the players saying, hey, we care about our fans, we want you to make it to the next game. So please buckle up, please drive sober, whatever that looks like. If you know of any conferences or expos that you think Vision Zero would be a great thing to take part of, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to have a booth there or give a presentation. Alright, then crash statistics for 2022. This is one of the more important slides that I want to talk about. It's also one of the last. But this past year, 2022, overall we've had 100 fatalities on our North Dakota roads. Almost 65% of those fatalities were because people were not wearing their seatbelt at the time of the crash. Last year, 46% were not wearing their seatbelt at the time of the crash. We've seen a really big jump in fatalities because people have failed to wear their seatbelt. This year, we've also had a ton of motorcycle fatalities. We've had 21, whereas last year in 2021, we had 8. So as you can see, Vision Zero still has a lot of work to do. Overall, in North Dakota, I would say seatbelt use is probably the biggest factor for a lot of our fatalities. People are not buckling up, and it shows. We have years and years of statistics to back up that wearing a seatbelt is the single most effective protector in a crash. And so we're trying to get out that seatbelt use is important. So I'm planning to go to more elementary schools and really teach about that. And then the last slide is just an overview of the other coordinators. One coordinator is in Minot, one is in Gulf Forks, and the other one is Fargo. And I'm here to be of service to your community. I'm in charge of the Southwest region, so as far east as Logan County, and then as far west as Golden Valley, and then as far south as Sioux County. But I am more than happy to help out in any way that you see fit, and I'm here to be of service to help teach on safety and care about your community. So, any questions?
So what age are you targeting kids?
All ages. So what I teach, like kindergarten to 6th grade for seatbelt safety, and then we do have a middle school program for impact teen drivers, and then also high school. And then we're also focusing on older drivers as well. So anyone and everywhere in between.
Have you been in contact with our sheriff's department at all, or do you?
I met with them last year when I came here for a commission meeting as well. So, but I can go down and say hi.
I know they coordinate to some of these events, like if there's like an expo or some kind of thing, especially with the high school age folks and stuff, so they would probably have a pretty good idea of, you know, if there's events you would want to partake in, or if they want you to come, that, because I know they go, you know, the sheriff's department usually attends a lot of those and does certain things, so I mean, that would be a good outreach for Emmons County anyway, so.
How about that egg days you got in Bismarck, do you guys cover that?
So that
And the egg days they usually have in Bismarck in February, you guys?
Oh.
Oh, you mean like the Egg Expo?
Yeah, the egg.
Isn't that, there's one in Minot,
Well,
right?
there's one in Bismarck usually too.
There's one in Bismarck too. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll look into that and see.
It's usually February sometime.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so move on to the appointment of board members and yearly appointed positions for 2023.
Does everybody have your list from the last meeting?
Yeah.
The board members?
Yes.
Just save your list from the last meeting? You want it?
Just here.
Here's a couple more.
Okay, so under the county officers was Denise Nusma, Jeffrey Olhauser. The Director of Emergency Management was Joint Powers Agreement with Mary Sanger, which we already approved. School Superintendent, I don't believe we have someone to appoint at this time, do we? Marla?
No, but we did that last month.
Right, but we don't have anybody, we didn't have a candidate to meet that. Okay. And then, the risk manager is Marla Solhauser, and Gary Sanders is the 911 coordinator, so I don't believe any of those have really changed.
The only thing, you know, Jeff is quitting,
Right, we still have to reappoint him until he retired, I mean. you'd
just
have
wait till he.
to- Right, I mean, you'd have to reappoint him and then you'd have to
I didn't know
hire,
we
you,
wanted to-
basically what we'd end up doing is after our interviews and you hire someone, you basically appoint them, so currently Jeff is still the VA.
Did she advertise for that also?
I don't know if we've advertised for that just yet, we were still ironing out the job description and stuff, right?
I should, I don't, when you guys want me to start advertising and then when you do.
Well, you can,
She's gonna step down.
Right, well, I mean, cause I know you've given us a timeline of about June or July, right?
And then I'm gonna need to know, what kind of salary.
Right, I mean, so there's things to iron out here with that, but so currently, I mean, we'll have to reappoint Jeff, cause he is our DA officer until we fill the position, so. So he'd be up for appointment, and Denise, and then Marlis for the risk manager, Gary Sanders for the 911 coordinator. I contacted Leonard Vetter for the weed board, and he said he would like to be reappointed. How about Joe Colbert, Dave?
For what?
For the weed board, or for the water board?
He's on the water board, yeah, he would take it again.
Yep, okay, and then, Gary, did you talk to Tim Weber?
yeah, he'll do it
He'll
again.
do it again, okay, and I talked to John DeBoer, and he said he would do it again also. And then Dave, did you talk to Jackie Grunfelder about public health?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I guess I know she had just gotten on, so I would assume she'd take it again, but she filled for Alex.
See her this week.
Well, we have to appoint them today, but I would say at this point, we can appoint her, if she doesn't want it, she could resign, and we'd have to reappoint someone. And then, but the Emmons County Housing Authority, Jeff never did get back to me when I asked him a couple times, but he never said no either, so I'd say we'll reappoint him, if he doesn't want it, he'll resign. For the South Country Human Service Zone, we do have to have a county commissioner on that board. I would take it if nobody wants it, but if someone wants it, I would not invite you for it, I guess, so if someone else wants exposure to that board, you're welcome to it, if not, I will take the appointment.
Excuse me, what positions did you have, Leonard, when you were on the board? You told me you were on some,
Yeah, well, originally I was on with the social services, but then when it became state-run, then that ended.
okay,
And I was on with the Lewis and Clark Regional Development out of Bismarck.
okay,
And I was part of the Extension Office's Council, Advisory Council.
okay.
I don't think any of those were required to be a commissioner.
I don't
right?
think so.
Yeah,
No, I
right.
think he was just more curious.
Right, but,
They
You
were.
mentioned it too.
yeah, I think the only board they need a county commissioner on currently is the Human Service Board, that's the
Yeah.
state century code, otherwise the rest of them they've changed over the years, I know some of them did, but,
Okay.
okay. And then, Gary, did you talk to Corbally Ogren about the county committee?
Yeah, he'll do it.
Okay. And Dave, did you talk to Kurt Weiser about the county committee?
Nope, I haven't.
Okay. Well, I've talked to Kurt about it before, just about things, you've never said anything about wanting to be off it, so I'd say currently we'll just reappoint everybody on these lists, and if they don't want it, then they could resign and we can reappoint someone, so.
I serve on the Community Action Board, does that have to be on? That don't?
No.
Okay.
These are
And
just
we
the
meet
term.
4 times a year, so it's probably right now.
So I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion to basically just reappoint everybody that's on this list, since we have no replacements for that, so.
Unless there's a resignation, that's
Well, that's, yeah, right, what's that?
unless there's a resignation.
Well, if they want to resign, then we'll have to reappoint them individually, but I'd say at this point, we haven't gotten a decline from anybody, so we might as well just reappoint everybody. So
I'll make a motion on what you just said.
Commissioner Materi makes a motion to reappoint all those individuals whose terms are up. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Everly? Commissioner Holm. Commissioner Holm, second. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on the appointment of countywide board members? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Members reappointed. Okay. So now we have the approval from Marlis Olhauser to open a CD at Unison Bank in Linton and authorize her to sign documents for Emmons County.
Okay, Greg Bosch he asked me last year already if the county could take some money to Unison Bank. We've never banked with Security or Unison before. And I said I didn't have a problem with it, and so, in order for me to open up a CD, I'd like to open up a $200,000 CD. I was gonna do it for 18 months, which is 3.5% interest. And in order for me to do that, I'm gonna need Greg is gonna need some approval minutes of the county commissioners, approving for me to open up a CD at Unison for $200,000. And, authorizing me to sign all the documents to do that, so. So in order for me to open up a $200,000 to be Unison, you guys have to approve it. That's Unison's requirement.
What's the interest that the other banks will get now?
You know, we do have like, it varies, you know, we have some of the hotels and some of
What's
the,
that?
Now you can quote.
it varies,
Is that a fixed rate?
yes.
How long was the CD? I don't know.
18 months, and the reason why I'm doing 200,000, I mean, I can go lower, I don't wanna go over because once you hit the 250,000, then you have to go through the security and pledges and all that, so we won't have to do any of that if we stand at 250. So I thought some of the new tax money that we have coming in, I would open up a CD with them.
I'm okay with that. This is my opinion, but I think there should be 2 people involved when you're dealing with money. For
Well, they're all,
signatures.
yeah, well, they're all.
Well, it would just be for me just to sign the CD, but we always have 2 people have to sign checks and everything now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Just because it just has to be.
Right,
Nothing
Right,
against
usually,
anybody, but
right,
just-
usually the signature card usually has probably you and then
Lisa.
someone in your, or the
And
treasurer, and so there's usually 2 treasury employees, so.
if you want to authorize us both, you can.
Okay.
You put that in the motion, and then I can tell Greg that we'll have 2 people.
I guess I meant, what were these funds from exactly?
Pardon me?
What are these, what's this 200,000 from?
We're, new tax dollars coming in is what I would use, you know, instead of running 200,000 to another bank, I would open up a CD at Unison.
So far we got Strawbridge, BNC,
Hazelton, Credit Union, Hazelton Bank.
so we got 4 of them. You look at the 5.
I'm okay. I know your interest isn't high. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of curious what the interest was of the other banks that we're getting all about, you know. If it's about the same or?
This is pretty good, this is a pretty good rate, we're not doing this right now, like we need it.
And that's the minimum amount of time you can put it, 18 months.
Yeah.
Well, I could go 2, 3,
You
or
go
4, or
lower
5
again,
years,
it's
it's only
like
2%, so I thought I would take the
No,
highest,
it's just a bit, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And he's been active for a couple of years already, and I think last year I just didn't.
Need a motion to go ahead with this, or?
You do the security, or Unison, I'm sorry, needs, copy of approved minutes.
Okay.
That you're authorizing me to open up a CD.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve for Marla Solhauser.
I'll make a motion to.
Commissioner Arnold makes a motion to approve for Marla Solhauser to open CD at Unison Bank, and authorizing her to sign the documents for Emmons County. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion? Hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion approved. So the next item on business would be the snow emergency declaration, which I believe you all have a copy of. So it reads, whereas Emmons County, North Dakota has received a significant snow amount, which is 17.9 inches in December and wind gusts of 52 miles an hour. Whereas the Emmons County Road Department resources are committed to keeping emergency routes open and have made an inordinate effort to try and keep roads passable. Progress is impeded due to continued periods of snowfall, blowing snow and winds. Whereas the impact of continued conditions and cleanup may threaten health, well-being, and safety of the citizens of Emmons County, and whereas this effort may have a serious financial effect on the townships and cities involved in Emmons County in general. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Emmons County Commissioners does declare a state of emergency existing in Emmons County, North Dakota, dated at Lytton, North Dakota, the 3rd day of January 2023. So the reason for the snow emergency declaration is obviously we are running a lot of overtime. There's other costs that are coming into this has basically been an above average snowfall, at least for December anyway, so the reason for declaring the emergency is that opens up the emergency fund for us to use on some of these things instead of our regular budgets. Doesn't mean we have to use them, but at least opens the door, and then also declaring an emergency qualifies us for state and federal funds if they declare an emergency, which it's been probably the second or third time I've done it as a commissioner already, probably about every other winter you almost do it. You know, it doesn't mean you bankrupt the emergency fund, but it gives you the opportunity if you wanna bring in other services, like we had talked about dozers, things like that, that's where the emergency fund comes in, because you just don't budget for that extra contract and you don't plan on it, so.
And what do we have in that emergency fund?
Marcy, I don't think had.
300 and some thousand,
How much?
yeah, about 300 and some thousand, like.
I know she didn't have some of the balances because it's in.
Well, we can't close end of the year, we're first
Right.
closing today, so I didn't have any numbers to give you.
Generally, when we've been budgeting around 2 to 3 mils a year. When we don't utilize it, it just kind of keeps compounding. And on years we don't think we need it, some commissioners cut on it and auditors get mad. I did that like my first year, just kind of fell into it, but yeah, the emergency fund is there, it's available. But you have to declare a state of emergency to access it. So that's the reason for it. We're in a little bit of a window now, we've gotten lucky in the last week or so. We might get lucky for another week or two, we might get lucky for the rest of the winter, but more than likely probably not, so if we wanna bring in extra contractors or extra help or extra equipment or anything, that's how we do it, so. Anybody got any issues with declaring a snow emergency? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the declaration for the snow emergency.
I'll move, we do that.
Commissioner Culver makes the motion, we approve the snow emergency declaration. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Holm. Is there any more discussion on the snow emergency declaration? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Snow emergency declaration approved. Okay. Acacia, Emily, you are up.
Good morning, good morning. Can we ask you maybe to, or ask you, thank you. Okay, well, we're here just to give our quarterly, report, and so in front of you, we'll have just a little quarterly narrative, of course. It's not by all means, and everything we do is just some highlights. So I guess, do you wanna start and talk about? Yeah. So, this quarter we do, quite a bit with 4-H, we both work a lot with 4-H, and so, as on the front here, you can see we had our fall awards banquet, so that's kind of our recognition night for our 4-H'ers for their past year of achievements, and so, it was really great to have a pretty good turnout for that, and, the kids really enjoy, getting all that recognition and getting to kind of wrap up the year. And we also, at Fall Awards, recognized a donation, really big donation that we got from local farmers through the America Farmers Grow Communities grant. And so that was really amazing. Jerome and Rita Moss had donated $5,000 through that program to 4-H. And I think that's what, the second time we've gotten one of those grants?
I think it's actually the
Third time? So we're always super appreciative of the community support that we have from 4-H. And then of course, being the agriculture and natural resources agent, I deal a lot with all of the ag-related phone calls that come in the office. So dealing and visiting with producers about livestock, feeding, everything to do with pesticide training and pesticides also, and getting to deal with all those questions. And we had a livestock meeting scheduled for November, November 9th, I think, yep, in Hazleton. And we were gonna have some great discussion on livestock economics, about backgrounding livestock, as that gets to be a little bit more of an industry. We are predominantly cow-calf, but there are more guys that are wanting to background their own calves and even yearlings. So we were gonna do a lot and talk about that. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had other plans and it stormed on the 9th, and so we had to cancel. I did reschedule another livestock meeting though for February, on February 9th, I believe. And so hopefully February is a little bit kinder to me with my programs and the weather. But we'll have to wait and see. So with that, I'll turn it over to Acacia.
Yeah, it's just been a busy fall, doing programs. I helped out with a workshop, design succession plan workshop in Bismarck. Also did a turning 65 Medicare basics, workshop, down here in the courthouse, this past fall, and that had, really good, feedback. So I hope to do that again in the spring. It's just kind of to help people who are turning 65, know how to navigate what decisions and things that they need to make. Been in the schools a little, did real colors with the Linton 7th graders. I had a breast cancer awareness event in October. I have to say that I've never had an event where I had to cut off registration, but we included a painting class with it, and so I had 47 people, or 47 women specifically that attended that, so that was pretty cool and something I might try again. Attended some conferences. I went to Wisconsin for the National Association for 4-H, and then of course we both attended the NDSU Extension Fall Conference. Lots of meetings, lots of programs. Now I'm switching gears, and it's kind of my season to get into the schools. So I start in my first second grade classroom on Friday, and I'll be doing On the Move to Better Health Junior with them. So lots of stuff going. As you guys know, Connie's retiring. Came to the last meeting, and so it's been in the newspaper, it's posted, and so we'll start screening January 13th for that position, and hopefully can bring somebody on board.
Who interviews for that then? You do the interview?
Yep, we'll do the interview.
Okay.
Yep. And then I've asked Marlis to serve on the interview committee.
You got to bring that today.
So when is their last day again?
February 28th. Yeah, so.
Who negotiates the salaries on that?
State.
You do?
No, this is the county position, so, just, I used what was written into our budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know how that worked.
Well, those two are kind of, state kind of.
We are different, so Connie
Yep.
is a full county
Yep.
employee, where we are considered state.
State employee.
Yeah.
But, so it's a partnership between the state and the county, so it's a little bit, it's a different agreement altogether.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So we do have our 4-H Soup fundraiser at the end of February, so we invite you all to come to that.
Yeah.
And then I guess I can ask if there's any questions on the quarterly narrative or any.
We have a lot of our upcoming dates at the bottom on the last page, and so Acacia mentioned that she's gonna be in the schools a lot coming up. And then of course, I get really busy with all my production meetings and pesticide trainings, because NDSU Extension is kind of the responsible party for making sure that all of our pesticide trainings happen, and recertifying producers every year that need to have that training done so that they can spray their crops or pastures. So I'll be conducting trainings for those folks throughout the spring till April 1st. That is the deadline for them to get training done. So it'll be really busy. We'll have a lot of other 4-H events too, like she mentioned, soup fundraiser, livestock judging, all kinds of stuff. So,
Yeah, so anytime, I'll ask this question. Just a couple things we need approval for. So our annual performance review time will be coming. There is not a date set. So we would ask that somebody would be assigned our portfolio to attend our performance reviews. We don't really have any other meetings. No, just kind of to be the person, kind of the liaison to the commission regarding our office. So if somebody would discuss that and take on that role. And you don't have to, I don't know if you want to do it now or you want to do it better.
Good time as any.
Yeah, I suppose.
Don't raise your hand at once.
Yeah.
Well, don't make us feel like nobody We usually bring a treat to the performance review. It's actually a really interesting, probably, process for you guys to kind of see the things that we go through for the performance review and learning about some of the work that we do in the office, so.
I will do it.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Well,
Thank you, Erin.
we'll be in touch, like, we have no idea when it's.
Yeah, get treats, so. And if you feed them, they will come. That's usually how it works.
Sounds good. And then also, as president of our state 4-H National Association Extension 4-H Youth Development Professionals, if that's not a mouthful, right? But they send the president every year to the JSEP, Joint Council of Extension Professionals Extension Leadership Conference. And so that is in February 7th through the 9th, 2023. And so it would be my turn to go. They pay for the flight and the registration and the meals, and lodging. I believe it's 50% of the lodging, but it's only like 2 or 3 nights, and the hotel's reasonable. So that only expense would be like 50% of my hotel, like 2 or 3 nights, depending on how long. But the rest would be paid for by the national conference or national association. So I would need approval on that, and that's in Kansas City, Missouri.
I'm okay with it.
Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Everly to approve for Acacia to attend the national conference. Second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permission.
Alrighty. I don't know, anything else you guys have questions for us? If not, I know you guys have lots on your agendas, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't be strangers. Yeah,
Thank
don't
you.
be
Thank you.
strangers.
Happy New Year.
Denise. My God, we're back on track.
It's always.
The first thing I have is some abatements. Of course, every time the tax statements go out, people are, hey, I know this, and figure out that they forgot to do it that. So, we've got 2 mobile homes that were destroyed. So when their 2023 tax statements went out, they came in and notified me of that, so we're removing those taxes on 2. We have, 1 farm residence exemption that was approved. Oh, North Dakota Assembly of God, they had 1 property that was purchased that should have been exempted. So that is on there, and then the last one, is a gentleman who had a blind exemption. I did not realize when I talked to him about doing that he wouldn't have to do the homestead credit every year. But that is an exemption for the house and not for the land. So we're switching him back to the homestead credit now. So that way he can have total property relief. So those are the abatements that I have for approval.
The last one you said he was what was the last one?
That he was under the blind exemption. And it exempts the house, but not the land. And it is a in-city land, so it's not like it was a whole lot more, but yeah, so he still had taxes owing where he can qualify for 100% tax relief under the homestead credit. So we're switching him back to that.
So it looks like the major valuations would be the Assembly of God. I suppose they qualify being a religious entity, I suppose 501c3 or something.
Yep.
Okay. And then one of them is a farm residence exemption, so that's a fairly sizable one. The rest of them here, the valuations are only like $3,800.
Exactly.
It's a few dollars in valuation basically, right? So,
Yep.
okay. So, that being said, is there a motion to approve these abatements? Does anyone want to take a look at it? Take a motion to approve, table, or deny the abatements?
I'll make a motion for it.
Motion by Commissioner Everly to approve the abatements. Motion by Commissioner Everly to approve the abatements. Is there a second on motion? Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Culver. Is there any more discussion on the approval of the abatements? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abatements approved.
Okay. Then the second thing on my agenda is the 2023 ag values. That was a handout that was given to you. You can see for Emmons what the rates are suggested at. This is the average per acre that the state defines for us according to the formula on the backside. So the formula on the backside is very complex. That's why the NDSU is the one who calculates and prepares all this. So they're looking at that Olympic 10-year average of revenue and production on the crop, non-profits as well, to come up to these averages. So back onto the front, I wrote on the hand sheet what our values were last year. So all ag land is only supposed to come up $1.31 per acre as an average. Cropland only 8 cents per acre on an average, and non-crop value is going up $3.12. That'll have lesser of an impact because we have more crop than non-crop. I did calculate out, somebody looks at it, okay, $1.31 per acre, hey, I've got a quarter, so my taxes are going up 160. No, that's just the value of it. So calculating that out for $1.31 per acre on a quarter comes out to only $2.09 in taxes on a quarter. So it's pretty minimum for increases this year. On that $3, it came out to $5 per quarter of an increase. So again, not significant.
What's our percentage at as far as we're at based on this?
Yep. So we, in the past years, have been keeping at 93% of the state recommendation. We have to, by law, be between 90 and 100. And we've chosen that 93 to give us buffers, that if we do have a bad year or a good year, with lots of changes, we can adapt as needed. This year, my recommendation is, with this level of a change, to remain at the 93.
So we're still at 93%, of these changes didn't, are these the Emmons County changes then you're saying?
Yep.
Just for that?
Yep.
NDSU, and then what we were going on our values were within that tolerance?
And then, yeah, and then go 93% of the values listed is what we were at last year. But I compared 100% to 100%.
Right, okay.
So we're still at that percentage.
Well, these values get us to 93% then you're saying?
Nope, these are the 100% values. So last year at 100%, we would have been at the 627. And then what was 100% last year. And so we went 93% of that. So 93% of the 627, now we'd be at 93% of the 628.
Okay.
So what you're making a motion on is that we can see what 100% is, that the state is telling us we need to be at.
Okay.
So the objective is whether you want to stay at 93% of these 100% rates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we want to stay.
Well, I think 93% is a good number, because like we said, when you tread too close to the line, you have to make major adjustments, and if you go too high, then you're overvaluing in my mind, and if you have room to wiggle, so. 93 is a good spot, because 90 is probably too close, so.
Exactly.
And you would like that in a motion to approve that, right?
That's correct.
Entertain a motion to maintain the agricultural land valuations at 93% of the assessed value by the state tax commissioner? Is there a motion for that?
I'll make a motion on that.
Commissioner Holm makes a motion to maintain a 93% average of the agricultural land valuations. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second
Seconded by Commissioner Everly. Is there any more discussion on the ag land valuations? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Valuations approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise. We are a little ahead of schedule. Danielle, are you ready? Or do you want to wait till 11?
Well, I think Skylar should probably be here for part of this, so.
Yeah.
You wanted to do that noon hour one, Dan and Terry brought up?
Yeah, we could discuss the courthouse hours. Let's do that. So I know we've had a discussion before, and we always, the issue has always been that not every office has more than one employee, so that was always, so some offices are always gonna be closed just because that person's taking their lunch break, so.
it. Well, I think Marcus, you're out, yours closed all the way, somebody there usually.
If I'm at work, you know, I keep my office open.
Okay. So the only one that's really affected pretty much is the motor vehicle, right?
And you know, we talk about this lunch opening, I've also heard some complaints about is, why do you guys open at 8:30? Now, this morning I got to work at 20 to 8. 10 to 8, there were some customers coming in already, you know? So it's not just a noon hour that some people are questioning. They're also questioning the hours period of why don't we open at 8 instead of 8:30? And you know how to do that? You should adjust, instead of doing an hour lunch, maybe we could do a half hour. But you don't want to go over the 37 and a half hours a week either, because we're all salaried, employees are all salaried here, you don't want to have to adjust your salary. So, you know, there's been conversations opening at 8, taking a half hour lunch, closing at 4:30. Closing earlier on Fridays if we're over the hours or whatever, it's something you guys.
Whatever got set on the 37 and a half, most work out over 40. How did it get
It's been like that for, not that it can never change, but I mean, it's been like that for a long time.
I know, it's been like that, and I always tried to figure out, like, because that normal work week is 40. I was trying to figure out why is it counting 37 and a half?
And what's the feeling in the report within the people within the courthouse?
You know,
Opening at 8?
I don't want to speak for other department heads, I would just assume, call all the department heads in while we're having this discussion, because, you know, I like the idea of opening at 8 already, but I know some department heads don't. I like the idea of a half hour lunch, I know some department heads don't like that either, so I think if you're gonna have this discussion, if you're gonna make a decision on what to do, I think you should involve all the department heads.
Could we bring them in today, now?
I don't know, for the sake of time, that might be, I mean, I think probably what needs to happen is we probably need to just.
Joe is absent today,
Gary Jones there, Joe's out sick.
I think we need to continue the discussion if you're gonna have it, but the one thing I will bring up is we discussed this, I believe, in September, October.
I can't remember.
Well, we had the discussion that we were gonna go from basically like 8 to 5:30 with a short lunch break, and then we were gonna have the option to close at noon on Fridays. That was the compensation, to be able to not go over the hours. But Monday through Thursday, you were gonna have an 8 to 5:30, which I felt would give more than enough people time to do it, and you also had Friday till, what was like 12:30 on Friday then, right? Like, Friday was gonna work through lunch and go to like 12:30, so everybody could get out of here early, and that was gonna be the trade-off to the opening longer during the week. And that conversation, it was, I don't even know if we voted on it, I mean, it just.
And I like the idea of, you know, a half hour lunch, but I know there's some department heads that want their whole hour, but.
Hey, Chairman,
But if you do like 12 to 12:30 lunch, that still gives other people that are working people, they still have time to come in and do something at 12:30. You know,
So each
But I know you
department
Go ahead.
is different. I'll create some kind of survey and send it to all the departments because each of them are busier at certain times, whatever else. Get something together for next meeting so you guys can see kind of an overall one. Because, yeah, we sit and talk about it, like each department's different. So I'll create some surveys, send it to all the departments.
But I mean, the one thing I just want to bring to light is that we had this discussion not long ago.
Yeah,
And the employees there was some kind of consensus with, the trade-off was as you work longer Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, you were gonna get off a little earlier. And especially, we discussed about having a summer versus winter hours to try and, I mean, there's been discussions on it, but it seems like that the commissioners, it always ends up landing to stay consistent, but we've always landed where we're at. And the conversation always goes, we don't like the hours we have, but every other idea that gets brought up gets voted down too. So, I mean, that's part of the reason. I mean, it's been discussed several times. I mean, I've been commissioner for a little over 4 years. I bet we've discussed it 3 different times, and it always lands in the same spot. There's certain people that want to have an adopted schedule, some people want to stay the same, and in the end, it lands where it is anyway. So that's just for sake of discussion. It's not like it's never happened
I
before.
think, like I said, I think the biggest one is the motor vehicle department, right? I mean, that's the.
well, and
People out there.
I don't think the public would be upset if we close them like 4:30. Because I don't think anybody in the public, I think the public would like to see us open like either 8 in the morning or a little bit in that noon hour and close at 4:30. There's a lot of businesses that are closed at 4:30. We're one of the only ones that are open till 5.
Well, you gotta understand one thing with DMV, the reason they close when they close too is they have to close their books in order to match Bismarck's too. It's not just Emmons County's time with that. It's kinda like the mail. Certain towns you can get it in at 2:30, some it's 4. Well, that's when the mail truck shows up. DMV, we've had that discussion. I believe they have to be about closed by 3 or 3:30 to finish closing their books to get it.
Do we have to go by their hours too, though, with motor vehicle department?
No, we set our own hours. We just have to let them know what they are.
But there is a limit on the collection of money or the renewal of tabs, things like that. They have kind of a timeline where they cannot do business past like 3 o'clock. And that is the reason why DMV's always been even different than us. It's not that they probably wouldn't even stay open until 4 or 5, but they have specific rules from the
I don't want to
state.
start war, it's just that.
No, but just to be clear, because one thing you're the newest guy, and when we have those discussions, I'm always on board with it too, and then I go to the DMV and it's like, well, we can't work, I'm like, oh, that's why you do that. So there is a learning curve on the hours thing too, because everybody, like Josh had said, some folks, it's different, and the DMV is one of them. They have rules that even the county has to abide by because of the state requirements for their books and stuff too. So that's gonna be the uphill battle to climb, is if that's the argument, is they want DMV
And I
open
know
longer,
we
it
have
can't happen, I don't believe.
And I know why, people, like during election time especially, I mean, I try to leave the office open. My office, if I'm at work, I stay over lunch all the time.
So the DMV, they take
But
an
that's
hour.
that's my choice though.
Right,
They take an hour for lunch there too.
Yeah.
And then you might have to double check, that might be a DMV requirement.
No, it's not.
It's not, that's not, okay. But I'm just saying, there's probably some wiggle room, but I know they have their own rules too, so just.
And the hours have always been the way they are, and that's why,
Right.
It's hard to read.
until you guys, the commissioners are the ones that have to change it,
Right.
Well, it's more or less the motor vehicle department's the main one.
Yeah, a lot of people, they go up to the register of deeds, they got a half hour, they want, they're open. They got that hour, they wanna run up and pull a book, well, they can't do it because they're closed.
Sure.
There's some mornings at 5 to 8, I hear the elevator, and I'm like, okay, who's out there now, and you go, oh, I thought you opened at 8, so it's not just a lunch, it's also.
Right.
And my
Yeah,
phone
do
calls
what you
get forwarded to my cell
Do what
phone,
you said.
and there's
That's a
often
good
I get
Good
phone
idea.
calls at 8:20, and I still take the call.
Sure.
So I do agree 8 o'clock would be
A better deal.
a better deal but the Fridays, yeah, Friday afternoons were completely dead.
Completely dead.
Yeah, you wanna come in my office? You'll see.
Well, I think like we had the discussion before, I felt like an 8 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday was a pretty productive schedule, and then, Friday afternoons, especially maybe in the winter, and was part of an ongoing discussion, and it kinda ended up landing, and nobody wanted to change it, so I think or summertime schedule, whatever, I mean, I don't even wanna change hours too much, cause the beauty of it is consistency, you wanna know when you're open or closed, but then once you make a right, I mean, once you make a change, you gotta stick to it too, so
Yeah,
maybe changing it sometimes is tough, I don't know,
summer and winter hours, I agree with that. People are acting a heck of a lot more during the summer.
well, right, I mean, it just depends, you know, there's a variety of different things,
Yeah, just a trend, that's what it is.
so, right? Well, I think it's a discussion that probably just needs to continue, and probably put it ahead for the next meeting, so that department heads have some notice, and they can bring their opinions in, we can have a meeting on it or something, so, okay? We can go down to, some of these extra things, like the deeds and the permits. So we have a county deed for, are you ready for that, Josh? or-
Sure.
That's a property in, Old Town that I took back the tax delinquent.
Okay,
Linton City has decided to purchase it.
so it's a deed for lot 7 and lot 8 of block 6, Petrie subdivision, Linton, Emmons County, North Dakota, and that is property that we had up for tax delinquency, and the city of Linton purchased it for $1. Okay.
Yeah, I've read that. We had,
Well, I'm not sure, I guess, cause
What's that?
well, those were newly delinquent, right? Like they were just past the 3 years, I'm assuming, cause we haven't.
Well, they were delinquent last year already, and nobody bought them at the sale in November.
Okay.
And usually if the cities are willing to take them for $1, so we don't have to maintain them, we usually try to get them out.
Is that the one where Pork had that one there?
Pardon me?
Is that the one by Pork there? That Pork there?
That Terry McGee, the lot next to his place.
Good. Well, I entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny the county deed for the city of Linton to take over these lots.
Make a motion to approve it.
Commissioner Hall makes a motion to approve the county deed to the city of Linton. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll say.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Deed approved. We have a raffle permit for the Linton Country Club.
She said it.
I'll make a motion to approve the permit.
We have a motion to approve a raffle permit for the Linton Country Club.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion on the raffle permit by the Linton Country Club? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Raffle permit approved for the Linton Country Club. We have a building permit for T-Mobile Central LLC to remove 3 panel antennas and install 6 new panel antennas.
What is this?
So this would be a cell phone tower. I'm assuming what they're doing is they're not doing any work to the antenna, they're just removing some, they're removing the antennas, they're not doing any work to the tower. They're
It's an upgrade.
Yep. Removing 3 panels.
There will be a separate permit from the company who needs to do the reinforcements to the structure, but that will come through in a separate permit for
Sure.
the company. That's
I'm assuming there's some additional weight or something,
Yep,
but this is the work just to do the antennas.
correct.
South of there, a couple miles, just west of the
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, so just like 2 miles, it's up there.
That's out there.
Yeah, this is land.
It's
all
a personal,
personal.
okay.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny the building permit for T-Mobile to install 3 new radio antennas.
I'll make a motion.
So we have a motion to approve the building permit for the antennas. Is there a second to that motion? Is Is there a second to the motion of the building permit?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion? I believe, 'cause if I remember right, we did this antenna about 3-4 years ago. And when the building permit was approved for the antenna, I believe Preston signed and notarized for the easement and the roadway and all that stuff, so. I think access is pretty much granted through that easement, so. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on the building permit? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit approved. We have a building permit for Your Home Improvement Company. It looks like it's on the Chris Weigel property, the farm out of Kintyre. Looks
They're
like
just remodeling their bathroom.
just be my bathroom.
Oh, there's nothing exterior.
I approve it. I mean, I make a motion to approve it. That's all it
You
is.
have to have permits, I mean, motions to it.
There's a motion by Commissioner Materi to approve the building permit. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Culver. Any discussion? I guess the discussion for the building permit purposes in my time here is basically more so for the tax department.
Is there a certain dollar amount that they have to submit and request a permit?
All work is technically supposed to be, a permit requested. If it's under $2,000,
You don't
there's no fee.
Oh,
So it's just a matter of just letting us know, what sort of changes are going on.
So
In case,
put new windows in the house, you have to go through this here.
yep,
on a rural area, if you need a permit.
yep.
Can't you just
Oh my
approve
God,
it
I'm
there?
in violation.
There's a lot of people,
You didn't.
Shit.
and we have a big challenge too, that, people have moved new houses in and not got a permit, because they think they're out in the country and they can do what they wanna do.
Well, when did this all start? Back when? In what year?
Before me,
Which is what, 2 years?
Yeah, it's
Yep.
been quite a while already.
Well, it's always kind of been basically the process is to get building permits for things.
I just didn't know they had to be here.
Well, the main reason is for the tax assessment, which, like I said, I've never been in favor of the building permit process like that because we don't have an inspector, we don't do anything as far as code, it's basically just knowledge you're doing something to your property so that someone can find out and tax you more on it. I've never been in favor of that. That's the system though, it's the system, that it's the way like that in every county's like that. My main support for building permits has always been for structures, mainly for the setbacks off of properties, and that's always been, as far as building permits, other than that, I mean, this is the proper process,
Well,
but.
I don't think we ever done it before here.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
and
It's just, yeah, windows, there's certain people that follow the rules and other people like Commissioner Materi that don't. So- You're on record saying that. But, right, yes.
Anything on?
Well, the truth be told is, in a scenario like this, when a property would get assessed 2, 3, 5 years from now, you'd probably find this anyway, so that's why, whether or not it's necessary or not, it eventually takes care of itself anyway.
and
if
how
it's
to
assessed.
enforce something like that, we don't know what's going on inside people's
Well,
homes. so-
landscaping, everything you have to do a permit?
And landscaping, no.
No, okay.
I mean, depends if you're, like, gonna put a retaining wall and on the ditch edge, for an example, there could be stuff like that, but even putting up grain bins, because we've had a lot of grain bins be within the
Placed
setback,
within the road,
not just the right of way, but there's a setback as well. So,
Improvement steer home technically qualifies for a building
yeah,
permit.
permit.
I don't think anybody in Emmons County's gone to jail in my mind not filling one out, so I think this is the proper process and they're doing it, so. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on the building permit for Chris Weigel / Your Home Improvement Company?
I make a motion to accept.
Well, we have a motion and a second,
Yeah.
so, yep. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit approved. All right, Marlis just informed me that Jeff had requested time for the agenda. Marlis didn't have you on here, but yeah, you can go now, Jeff.
Just do my quarterly report. Josh, can you come and get these? Give me each one, and Marcus one.
Okay, Jeff.
Not much new on there, they had a conference up in Bismarck for our training, October 17th, 18th, and 19th. I did it virtually again on the computer. It was a very good conference this time. They had a lot of good info on there and a lot of stuff I can use, you know. I thought it was one of the better ones we've had. They put a lot of work into it this time and it was well worth it. I thought so. It was pretty good, so. Other than that, I don't have anything. Guys got any questions?
Probably maybe be working with you a little bit here in the short term about, you know, a job description and things like that too, if Marlis or anybody needs any help, Pam Binder or your commissioners, cause as we start to look for your replacement before you retire, so.
Yeah.
That's about the only real.
Anything
Yep, so that might be the only thing coming up, I guess, is whenever you're available, we can get together.
Yeah, whenever you guys need anything, just let me know.
We'll try and find someone so that we have a little bit of a training opportunity there, at least just for you.
So what was your, when was your date you wanted to read?
July 1st.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
Other than that, I think that's it, unless anybody's got any questions for Jeff.
Have we heard anything about the wall of honor?
About what?
I haven't heard anything about the Wall of Honor ever since we had that conversation with them. Nobody's reached out to me at all. It'd be nice to get some information, because I think that's something we definitely like to do. So I guess that's ongoing. I don't know. I know there was an issue, not an issue, but the conversation led to there had to be some money for the fund. I don't know if they're waiting for us to verify that we have the funds, or I don't know. It just seems like.
What's this all about?
So the Wall of Honor is, I don't know if you've seen that around, but it's basically like a TV that we were planning on putting probably downstairs in the hallway. What the Wall of Honor does is it displays all the veterans, you know, that are mostly Emmons County, or at least a rural area. And it's just basically a wall that shows.
They're veterans and emergency.
What's
They're
that, Jeff?
veterans and emergency personnel.
Yep.
Like fire department, you know, EMTs and stuff can all put, they can put their pictures on there if they wish.
Yeah.
You know, they have to put them on there.
Yeah.
You know, themselves or family members can put them on there.
See, people misunderstand that because I've had people talk about it and they think it's another wall with brick. And the county's gonna subsidize it.
This is a screen.
It's not that, okay.
This is like a TV screen
Okay.
that they put up, and then it just continuously runs these pictures
Okay.
of these people with their name and when they served.
It has to be submitted by like a family member or a friend, and they have to have, if you're living, they have to have permission, you know, so. Right, it's a part of a big process, it's nationwide, but, the initial startup cost is about $3,000, which purchases the TV and all that stuff. And I initiated the process because I thought the county courthouse was the proper place to put it. That was the only part that the county was gonna be contributing, the rest of it was gonna be donated private funds. And then it's about $1,000 a year. A part of those funds, like if Maker Excavating, for example, wanted to put in a specific amount of money, then you could advertise on there as well, like in between the veterans and stuff, is advertisements of the businesses and entities that donate to it, so, and that's where.
Just downstairs on the main floor is the wall as you walk in, you can watch it.
We kind of envisioned right when you
A good
walk in,
spot.
right, there would be a good spot where everybody'd see it, we kind of looked at it one time,
Okay.
but we were kind of hoping for some guidance by their part, like come down, check it out, and move the process forward. I haven't heard anything from them, so I don't know if we're missing a step and we're not doing it, or they're just that busy, they haven't got back to us, I don't know.
Okay.
We'll have to
They
continue,
can be contacted and, you
Right.
know, and stuff if you.
because we did have that, we did have.
If you're interested in doing it, They have them in the bars here in town, have them, a couple of the bars have them, and people do look at it. You know, and I've been in some restaurants in Bismarck, and they're popular for people to look at and see, you know, and a lot of families, a lot of veterans have put their pictures on them from around here. You know, I've looked at them when I've been in restaurants, I don't go to the bars, but I've been in restaurants, and I sit there and I watch them, you know, see who's on there.
I think it'd be a good thing. I think the courthouse is a good spot for it.
It's a neat thing to do, if anybody's got family members, you know, that ever served, or who are firemen, or had been a fireman, or an EMT, or, you know, anything like that. It's a good thing to do, kind of honors them a little bit, and, you know, they don't have to be current. They could be ones who served World War I, World War II, or,
They earned it.
or anything, you know,
We'll wait for the.
kind of a little bit of honor for them.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it, Judge.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can we recess for 2 minutes?
Yeah, why don't we recess for about 5 minutes, and then we'll just, everybody needs to get a drink, do something, and then we'll continue.